Jay Norris.
Kelly Aramaki.
Okay, next we have introduction of a staff member.
Thank you, President Watson. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce to you Dr. William Jackson. William is the new Director for Teaching and Learning. He comes to us via the Seattle Public School District. He formerly the principal at Nathan Hale, recent State Principal of the Year. We're thrilled to have William as part of the BSD family. So William's going to come on up.
As you know, we're going to ask you to lead us in the pledge, do the land acknowledgement, and then tell us whatever you'd like us to know.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Where do I look?
Oh, we got a flag here.
Cool.
Okay.
I know the pledge too. All right. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples, who include the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, and Snoqualmie peoples. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt eraser. We commit to an ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance. All right, good evening, everyone. It's been nice to connect with you, and it's been nice to be onboarded by such an amazing group of educators and leaders. My name is William Jackson, proud Director of Teaching and Learning here at Bellevue. A few of my core beliefs: I do believe in equity, access, justice, and I hope to share my love through my leadership through this role. I'm going to share a quick story how it is centered under our focus, human-centered design and human-centered work. When I first had an opportunity to, when I first got the call that I had earned the position of Director of Teaching and Learning, I had pulled Kelly aside and I said, Kelly, yeah.
Yeah, not just Kelly.
No, actually you.
Oh.
Yeah, no, so, yeah. Kelly is my wife. I do have a wife and named Kelly. And so when I talked to Kelly, anyways, you threw me off. All right, so yeah, that was great. So I said, Kelly, Dr. Aramaki, I have to tell you something. It was a really awesome meeting that I had with you and Eva. I'm excited about, you asked me about dreaming and what does it look like? What are opportunities that we can lead in? But I do have to share that in 3 weeks, my wife is due with our second baby. And he looked at me and said, wow, that's beautiful. And he said, tell me about your wife. Tell me about your daughter. Tell me about your family. And then he shares about his family. And he said, you know what? You're going to love it here. The teaching and learning department's awesome. You get to work with Scott, you get to work with Melissa. And he named off all these people that I didn't even know. And now I know them. And he was just like, oh man, the work that you're doing is going to connect with the work here. And so much so that we're ready to have our next baby. No, I'm joking. But I would say that has reverberated with every conversation that I've had with folks, every meeting that I've had, every opportunity that I've had. Anytime that we lead any learning or I'm stepping into any learning, we do have any opener. And that's the center of my world right now is my family. And I'm seeing that and feeling that from others as well. And they're centering not only their family, but my family in the work. And so they're ensuring that I have the balance to be able to lead. And so what that means though, is that's gonna show up with our educators. How they have demonstrated that with me, they've demonstrated that with our leaders. We've been able to demonstrate that with our leaders. Our leaders are gonna demonstrate that with our teachers. Our teachers are gonna demonstrate that with our students because it could be a baby for me, but it could be a sibling with one of our students. It could be an emergency with one of our students. It could be a family crisis, or anything could happen that requires us to shift and pivot and to take a human-centered approach. And so that has been amazing as onboarding for me. And I'm excited to be a part of that. And I'm excited to learn and grow in this role. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now we have the acknowledgements. So on the 19th of August, it was World Humanitarian Day. I guess that's coming up in 4 days. And on the 30th, we have John Mashtami. And we don't have anything else listed that I can see. All right. And now what we need next is a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as written. Second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, so now we need to have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I
We
move
have
to
such a
approve the
motion?
consent agenda.
Okay, second? Anybody second? I can second.
I second.
All right, second. Okay, is there any discussion of the consent agenda? I'm saying that for self-serving reasons because I wanted to point out how much I like the way we're doing this, the sports and activities pre-approval for the kids in case they their group wins something and they have to travel somewhere. That is something we've been doing for a couple of years now, but we hadn't always been doing, and it seems to alleviate a lot of stress. So with that said, anybody else want to say anything about the consent agenda? No? I'm going to say all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. All right, that passes. So now we are going to go on to superintendent updates.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And then the next slide, please, Jess. Thank you. Just a few celebrations. It has been busy in the Bellevue School District. And so even though we're in the middle of summer and a lot of people are still on vacation, the central office, our district leaders, our teacher leaders are back and in full swing. And it kicked off last week with an unbelievable Leadership Institute. I mean, every year it just gets better and better, but I think this one really topped our Leadership Institute experience. We spent about 3 or 4 days together last week, and the first day we launched our strategic plan with our leaders at the Intellectual House at the University of Washington. There's the native tribal name that's written there, but I still haven't figured out exactly how to pronounce it, so I apologize for that. But it was an incredible experience because the 3 kind of parts of our strategic plan, belong, learn, lead, we got to anchor in kind of the tribal native understanding of belonging and community and collectivism, learning on the land that you're on, being out outside learning, and then leading for people and for planet. And so just if you take a look at some of those pictures, we got a tour of the University of Washington campus looking through the lens of environmental sustainability. I just want to do a shout out to the restaurant Off the Res, which on their website they say that they're the first native-owned cafe food truck, but they just really graced us with incredible food that day for the entire leadership team. We had some incredible guest speakers, and so I just want to list some of them. Owen Oliver, he was a former student of mine when I was a principal at John Stanford. He's Native American, and he led our tour on the campus and to develop this tour all by himself from his own kind of history and background. James Whitfield, Aaron Jones was with us, Kalika Curry from Eastside Pathways, Justin Chan from the city, Lauren Nabaje, who is our native educator who represents us, North Shore and Lake Washington. Let's see, Michael D'Souza, Ashok Shimoji Krishnan, who's a parent here, Shane Saphir, who wrote Street Data, and Max Silverman from the Center for Educational Leadership. And so I'm really proud because we brought the best of the best together to be able to give great learning to our leaders here in Bellevue. And you can see some pictures there of inside the intellectual house, which was absolutely gorgeous. You can see the panel there who really helped us think through issues of racism, bias, and racialized language. There's a picture of Ashok. We had like a true like college learning experience. It was about 80 degrees in that classroom in Thompson Hall. And he just gave us the lecture of lectures on mental health and things like that. So it just was really, really awesome. And so just kudos to all the leaders who were there, and kudos to all the district leaders who put that together. We have an incredible cabinet who leads this work. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody who took part in putting that together, because it takes all July to put together an institute like that. Next slide. Just a comment about human-centered systems and relationships. So Dr. Jackson talked about this, but from our strategic planning development, we did empathy interviews, and we interviewed families about what they want to see in Bellevue. And a big part of what parents want to see is that not transactional relationships, but human-centered relationships where they're treated and with humanity. And so you can see this kind of image here captures what Bellevue kind of defines as human-centered systems and relationships, which is one part, just great customer service to families, two, people being known and cared for, all of us, three, us providing expert support to our families and our kids, and then the other part of human-centered systems is that we're culturally responsive and sustaining. And so a family can walk in and know that their identity is affirmed and accepted and sustained in this space. The next slide. Next slide is just a picture of, this is a picture of our district leadership team. So on the third day of the Leadership Institute, we had department leaders from the instructional side, the operational side. We got together to basically unpack what it means to be human-centered and to build human-centered systems and relationships. It's the first time in a long time that we have brought all of our leaders together. So I apologize for the formatting. I think it didn't transfer over right when I moved the slides over. But it was really great to have all of our district leaders together and to kind of cast this vision around human-centered systems and relationships. Next slide. This is just my picture of what I'm dreaming about for the Welcome Center.
Okay.
So it's just a Google image, stock image of a room. But so we're not necessarily, we don't have the money to build a fireplace and all of that stuff. So I'll just say that, but the vision is that when families come, they're welcomed into a space that is beautiful and welcoming and where we can provide expert support. And so we're going to be developing this Welcome Center. We're very excited about it, but you can see there's different aspects to it. One part, starting from the top, is elevating the experience in student admissions. And so it's something that Director Block had talked about before, but when people are interested in the Bellevue School District, we want their humanity centered first, and then we provide them with great support. We want to create a one-stop shop for family and any support that they need around transportation, McKinney-Vento, supplies, and things like that. All of that there in the Welcome Center. We are going to bring back volunteerism. And so a lot of people who've been here know what Vibes is, but we want to bring back a way to help promote volunteerism in our schools. We want to lead parent trainings out of the Welcome Center. We want to bring together our community partners in the Welcome Center, including the PTSA and the Bellevue Council, the Bellevue Schools Foundation. We want to provide support to our school offices, so spread that kind of welcoming environment to all of our schools. And then we want to build out kind of family ambassadors where we empower parents to continue to help us make a welcoming environment across the system. So that's just kind of a snapshot, but I just wanted to show what we're building towards, and we're going to get a lot of that done this year, which I'm excited about. Next slide. This is a picture of the PTSA principal, PTSA president and principal breakfast. And so we've been doing this for a number of years, but part of human-centered is building the relationship between the leaders in our system. Some of them are leaders that are part of the Bellevue School District, and some of it are our parent leaders. And so you can see this picture of most of our board directors who were able to make it there. Mendy Hall is the new Bellevue Council PTSA president, and we're just thrilled to have her as a partner. And Emily Castle served 3 years as the Bellevue Council PTSA president and is happy to turn it over. But we want to thank Emily for incredible leadership over the past 3 years for the Bellevue Council PTSA. Next slide. This is a picture of, in a similar vein, we brought BEA leaders and our principals and administrators together, because part of human-centered is that even though BEA reps have a certain responsibility and principals have a certain responsibility, we are all on the same team in support of staff and students and families. And so we spent 2 hours just building relationships together, doing some training together, and talking about a vision of collaboration for the year. Next slide. This is kind of our last, I think this is my last slide, but this was posted on social media, but it's a picture of all of our custodial staff in the Bellevue School District. And I will say I've been in multiple school districts. We have the very, very best custodians anywhere. Our buildings are so beautiful. They keep things so perfect for the kids and for families and staff. They work extremely hard. And the best of all is that they are just really kind, good people, welcoming, friendly, and are willing to do whatever is needed for kids. And so, I mean, it's good for everyone in a school district to be student-centered, and our custodians kind of model the way. So I think that's my final slide. Sorry about the formatting of the slides. I'll fix it for next time. Is that it, Jess? That's it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we're on to public comment. Do we have anybody for public comment?
We had one registered. Is Abby here? Abby Horsfall had registered, but I do not see her here and she's not checked in. Jess, is anybody online? So it looks like we do not have any public commenters.
I'll go slow now, giving it a few seconds in case anyone wants to raise their hand. I don't think I'll try to paraphrase or read these things outline. Everyone can see them. And if I don't hear anything in the next second or two, I'm going to say our time for public comment is ended, and we'll go on for approval of resolution 2024-13, the Sunset Demo Project. So we'll lead off with some comments from staff.
Okay, I'm here to seek approval for resolution number 2024-13, as shown in your exhibit 14A. This certifies the completion of the Old Sunset / Old Puesta del Sol school demolition project, and we'll figure out how we're going to name this for the next time we present it to you. But at any rate, we would like to have that approved and adopted by the board. We had a bid for $395,000 for that project, and the architect has certified that it has been done per the project specifications. And I've been out there a number of times to make sure the work has been done, and the city has approved that. So we are again seeking final acceptance of that.
Okay, so I need a motion for the approval, or how about this? I'll move that we approve resolution 2024-13 for the Sunset Demolition Project.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion's approved.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a few more resolutions. Would you like to introduce a little bit about resolution 2024-11, the approval of the annual budget?
Thank you, Board. My name is Melissa DeVita. I'm Deputy Superintendent of Finance and Operations, for the record. Resolution 2024-11, we are asking the board to approve the maximum amounts to be spent from each of our funds. There are 5 of them: the general fund, the capital projects fund, the transportation vehicle fund, the debt service fund, and the associated student body fund, or ASB fund, as it's often referred to. This budget was presented to the board in greater detail 2 weeks ago and is available online with the F-195, which is the budget document that is submitted to OSPI so that people can look at it in more detail. One of the most significant assumptions that we make with respect to our budget is around our enrollment. And I just wanted to let the board know where our enrollment currently stands as we look at the 24-25 school year. We have 285 more students than from non-resident students than we had last year. And so we're approaching 1,300 students that are non-resident students coming into our district. And so we're excited about the opportunities that those students are pursuing here, and we're excited to have them as part of our district. Our enrollment right now, if everybody came in that is currently enrolled, would be about 450 students more than is forecasted, but we don't really like to count our students before they show up. So it's like counting your chickens before they hatch, right? So, but we're hopeful because we are seeing a surge right now in enrollment. And we only have a few weeks before school starts. So that's exciting in terms of the revenue prospects. But of course, then we may also need to spend more on some staffing and things depending upon where those students enroll and what the impact is on class sizes. I know that this budget has a starting and an ending lower fund balance than what is the board's parameters. However, it does grow back some fund balance, but not to the 5%. And I understand there were concerns about cash flow for the district. We monitor cash flow on a monthly basis. The impact that the lower fund balance has had for us is that we are transferring money from the capital fund to the general fund for allowable expenses on a more frequent basis than we have historically. Historically, we transferred it at the end of the school year or at the end of the fiscal year. We are now transferring it intermittently for expenses that have been incurred that can be reimbursed from the capital fund. And that way we can manage our cash flow throughout the year. There are other options available if we do have a cash flow issue in the year. One of them would be to borrow from the capital fund and then pay it back within 12 months. That is long, or asking the state for an advance on our state apportionment. If we looked at using either of those alternatives, we would have to come back to the board and ask for board approval prior to executing any of those alternatives. But to date, we have not had to do that. The 23-24 budget was missing some really critical things like the cost of substitutes and optional PD for staff. That has been built into this budget. You're not going to see it individually in a specific line item that calls for substitutes per se, but it is included in Program 01 and the activity of teaching. And so we have included those expenditures into our budget. And the last thing that I want to say is I feel good about this budget because we have put things in place to allow us to track our expenditures much more closely. And we will be providing you with monthly updates that are more visual and that will allow you to see more in depth where we are in comparison to our budget on a monthly basis. And I'm hopeful that we will continue to have conversations with respect to how it is going moving forward, because managing our finances is obviously one of the most critical things that we as a district need to do in order to support our students. The last thing I would like to say is that the financial status of many districts in the state is many districts are facing significant financial challenges. In talking with the PSESD and some others, there are districts that haven't even turned in a budget at this point for the 24-25 school year. There are districts that are facing fund balances that are less than $5 million. And there are districts that have filed binding conditions, which is equivalent to saying basically that they're going bankrupt. The state really needs to take some action with respect to district finances and the way that districts are funded in this. And I hope that they take some action in this coming legislative session because there are a lot of kids that will end up paying the price for the current situation that districts are in. With that, I'm happy to take any questions on this resolution.
I think we will have some discussion about this, and I've got my die. And I roll a 1, and we're going to go, well, we're going to start with 1, and then we're going to maybe go negative numbers. Okay. Yeah.
Negative numbers.
All right. We'll go
Backwards.
We'll go 1, and then we'll go 5. We're going to go around the opposite direction.
Yeah, I really appreciate the information. And as you pointed out, we've had 3 prior chances to go around on questions related to this with our Monday meetings and the last board meeting. So you've addressed a lot of those. Couple of things I'll note. One is that with the apparent restarting of the traffic violation enforcement cameras on our school buses, that acknowledgement that program is returning too late to be included in these budget documents. So if that does require additional costs, we do think that that'll be offset by any revenue that generates, and that would have to be a subsequent approval to make that whole process works. And I feel that those traffic cameras are a vital part of student safety and an important part of making the job of our drivers a little bit easier. So I look forward to that, and I appreciate that. Really, I just want to emphasize that, when we look around the state, we see districts like Yelm is cutting all of their C teams. So they're keeping their varsities and JVs, and they've eliminated all other sports. Tacoma is eliminating most of their career and college counseling positions. North Shore is eliminating portions of their music program. Seattle's having widespread closures anticipated coming up. That's not where we're at here in Bellevue. That's great. I'm a little concerned that the out-of-district enrollment may not be sustainable. So I think it's important for us to do a good job of tracking those students and seeing if they stay in the district throughout or if they're just staying for a portion of their time, and also understanding which districts they're coming from, and if there are things we can do to, transportation is going to be a challenge for a lot of those students. So if there are things that we can do to facilitate that or support that, whether that's an off-site site to help them get to some of the schools, because we know drop off and pickup is not easy for single family cars, so that can be a real challenge. So those are the main comments I have. Thanks.
So next, Director Ars.
Thank you for addressing my question earlier around the substitute line item, and thank you for letting me know it's not clear on the F-195. I'm curious about the 450 new students, more of 450 students than anticipated. If we have that many more students, I understand that the plan is to increase the budget by 10 million on both the general fund and I can't remember what the other is, but what is the probability of actually increasing savings so that because of the cost, the additional numbers?
Right.
I'm saying this because of Director Block's comment about the sustainability of part of the number of out of district coming to our district, and how, making sure that we're being conservative in our expenditure and not see this influx as going to be a continuation thing.
Yeah, so so thank you for that question. If you remember, I've shown you a chart before where it shows when we lose students, it's hard to take the cost out as quickly. When we add students, we also do not add cost as quickly. So as the students come in, a lot of times there's already room in classrooms, so we don't have to add another teacher. In some cases we do, but we will not have to. If you took that 450 and divided it by, say, 25, you're talking about 16, 18 teachers. We will not have to add 18 teachers to support these additional 450. We already have 10 in our contingency, if you recall, and then we would not need to add 18 more on top of that. So for us to basically utilize all that, it would be a much greater investment in staff than we would need to. So whenever we add kids, our costs don't grow as quickly as the revenue does. So it would help us in terms of our fund balance.
And I guess I'm going to repeat my question that I asked on Monday, which is that I know that I asked for additional data for October when we actually have the count of where are all the students landing, which buildings and which grades. And I think it'd be really useful, as well as where are they coming from? Are they just out of district, or are they from, within the state, or are they out of country, private, and so on? I'd love to see if there's a way we could capture that.
Yeah, I'll provide as much of that as I can in October. We are collecting that information right now.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Director Webster.
Thank you so much, Ms. DeVita. Yeah, so I think that we all share the same sentiment around the lower fund balance coming in under the 5%. And I just think that we need to make sure that we are intentional around making sure that we are compliant with that in the near future, so that we can safeguard ourselves against anything that may come up in the future. So I just wanted to make that comment. And then a couple of things. One, I think that it's great to hear that we have 1,300 students that are going to be attending our schools that are not currently part of the Bellevue School District. They're coming in externally. And I just wanted to make sure that as we are engaged in our initiatives and projects and kind of creating these spaces for our students and families who are new to our district, that we don't forget to include those voices as well, because they may have a different experience than some of our kids who have grown up in this area and kind of been a part of our district. So I just wanted to make sure that that's noted, that we are going to be intentional about making sure that we are including their voices in those spaces to capture those experiences. There was one other thing. Okay. I know one of the areas also that will be coming up soon to the board is around attendance issues that we're experiencing, and I think it's necessary, one. And I'd like to know what the financial impact has been over the past couple of years with regard to truancy, right? And how that impacts the district budget. I looked through the F-195 and I couldn't find where that's captured. And so okay.
That level of detail would not be in
it's
there.
like a 200-page document. I might have missed it, but I'm just wondering if we're capturing that number, and then if not, if we can have that information, that might be helpful. And then wondering if I can also have it disaggregated as well. I'm particularly curious about what's happening with our unaccompanied minors as well with regard to truancy, and how that can impact our budget. And yeah, so if we can have that information at some point, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hey, Director Rogan.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dr. Armaki.
Oh,
I was just going to say, it's interesting because in some states, they do budgets by attendance daily. So Washington State's not great because we do it by the month, but some states do it by attendance daily. And so if you have like truancy issues, it does impact your budget. But in Washington State, unless they don't show up for 20 days and then we have to unenroll them, it's not so much an impact on the budget, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, if you unenroll students, then that's when the impact would happen, but it is a monthly average FTE. So it's not gonna hit you when they were attending or were part of the district. Other states, though, do everything based on the number of kids you have in October. So if you are losing kids, you wouldn't see that impact at all until the next year. So it really depends state by state.
And then we will probably give an update to the board on unaccompanied minors because that is a major focus for us. And so we'd love to present some information on that. And then I think when we do our EDDM, our equity-driven decision-making work, I think including the voices of those out of the district will be something that we could do because it is a kind of its own separate group of kids. So.
Okay, now, Director Rogan.
That caused me to do is just a slight bird walk, and that's the recent survey we did where we kind of rated and ranked, the top 10 program review opportunities for the board. And I'm just wondering about that whole attendance, truancy, disaggregated data. Should that be part of that list? I may have missed it, or maybe I rated it. Well, anyway,
We're planning to report. We're going to do a study session, I think,
Great.
on attendance truancy. So we are planning to do that.
fascinating. Okay, thank you, Melissa, so much. I feel like you've answered so many of our questions and have been Johnny on the spot with responding via email and just being ever present. So great appreciation for that. I think my one big call out and celebration as part of this resolution and budget is the enhanced financial reporting to the board, just so that we can continue to be on top of everything we're trying to do as a system and everything we can do as a board to be informed and to support in terms of oversight. So thank you for putting that specifically as part of this annual budget process. I feel like all of the other questions have been answered, so thank you again.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. So, I couldn't help but reflect how different it is being in a district where the budget is going down. Like, we're not like we were at one point adding an elementary school every year, worth of kids. So, I mean, we know that, but it is noticeable. What I do really like about this report is I like the way you listed the risks. I like the information that I got via email about the cash flow and how that wouldn't be as much of a problem as it looked. I like that you listed the practices that you're putting in place and the cuts that had been made in the past and the cuts that are probably going to be made this year. But all of that, and then I just feel like slide 9 or page 9 is our page. It's our thing that we all need to focus on, the 4-year outlook page. I just feel like we need to get all of us, staff and school board and community and parents and students to the extent that they're ready for it, to just focus on that. Like, how are we going to increase revenues and decrease costs before we fall off this $48 million cliff? So that's just a comment. That's my concern. And I think everybody's had a turn. Okay.
I'll just say one, just appreciation for the board because of a lot of the things that you talked about, the information on cash flow, cuts made in the past are from your questions. So I think it's a good model of oversight and then kind of staff work on creating a budget and creating transparency for the community. So thank you.
Hey, are we ready for the vote then? Okay. We had the discussion. Did I already?
I move to
motion?
adopt the resolution
Okay, there we go.
2024-11, approval of the 2024-2025 annual budget.
So we launched into
Second.
the discussion before we had the motion on the table. All right. So we had the discussion, and now everyone who's in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. We passed the budget. Great relief to,
Yes.
normally it's
And
easy.
I have to, at this moment, just thank all the people that have worked on it. We have 2 people here from our finance department, Lauren Tillman and John Esposito. We have a couple people online, Megan Hayden and Jason Golick. And the work that they have been doing as a team has just been great. And they really provide a lot of the detail to your questions. So.
Okay. So we've got a budget and we can open school in September as scheduled.
Yes.
All right. Now we're going on to our various financial resolutions. The next one is Resolution 2024-12, Capital Projects Fund Transfer to General Fund.
Right.
So, yeah.
So this resolution is one that we ask you to pass every year. It allows us to transfer funds from the capital projects fund to the general fund for expenses that can be reimbursed by capital projects fund dollars. These expenses are defined by law. They include things like the purchase of technology. So for example, when we purchase laptops, we spend the money out of general fund and then we reimburse it from the capital projects fund. Also software licenses, electronic curriculum, any upgrades to systems, and some salaries for various staff that work on technology. So this year the amount is just in excess of $3.5 million or $35.5 million. And we will be making those transfers over the course of the year as those funds are expended.
So would anybody like to move this resolution? Or shall I? I'll move that we approve Resolution 2024-12, Capital Projects Fund Transfer to the General Fund.
Second.
All right. Would anybody like to discuss this? Okay. Then I'll say all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we got it. So our next one is approval of Resolution 2024-14, the 2025 capital interest to general fund transfer. And I will say this one caused me to go back 2 meetings and see what was the difference between this and the other one, but I got it.
Yes.
All right, so
It's just the year that it is applicable
yeah.
to. So this is for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. The amount is $1.4 million. This is interest that is earned in our capital projects fund that can be transferred to a different fund by law as long as it is used for the purchase of instructional supplies and materials or equipment or capital. And this year we are buying a lot of instructional materials in the form of our literacy curriculum. And so this will be put to good use in support of student learning.
Okay, so would somebody like to move this one?
I move that we move for the approval of the resolution 2024-14, the 2025 capital interest transfer to the general fund.
Okay, and I'll second it, and then I'll say, any more discussion? Then we'll say, oh wait, we got some.
I just have a question about how the capital funds are invested. I understand this is interest. Are they in a bank account? Are they in a, how are these bearing interest, and what are those investments?
So King County does the investments for all of us. So they basically hold the cash, and they have a council or a group of people that have various representatives on it that do those investments. But they're in CDs and other things. There's lots of rules to ensure that there is not a risk of losing our principal.
All right.
So over the last couple of years with the interest rates being so high, we've been earning more on those funds than we were previously, but King County does take care of that for us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. Okay, any more questions on this one? All right. Okay, so we had the motion, we had the second, we had the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we passed that one. All right, and now we're going to talk about legislative priorities.
Jess, if you could show the document, it would be much appreciated. Dr. Armaki, if it's okay, and President Watson, I'll just highlight the changes from the last time you saw this. Then I know that Dr. Armaki would like to kind of weigh in with some thoughts. Does that work to do that? Okay. a little bit larger would be great. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. So the last time you saw this was on Monday, and as a board, individuals, you gave us some really good feedback that we have incorporated into this version that we're seeking your approval on tonight. And as I said on Monday, this is exciting because we've never had our ledge priorities, done this early, and I think it will really set us up, so that we can, focus and intentionally advocate for those things that are important to us. We'll be getting together with our legislative delegation in September. So I'm looking forward to the advocacy piece. So the first suggestion in the document that's attached, that's on board docs, I've highlighted in yellow where changes have been made. So Jess, if you could scroll down a bit, the first piece there is lines 23, 24, 25. Director Block suggested making it more explicit that we are advocating for the legislature to transform the funding mechanisms, specifically the prototypical school model. So we made that explicitly clear. If you could scroll down, Jess, you see, first of all, number 1, special education. Number 2, you see MSOCs. Number 3, transportation. And I'll just stop there for a second and remind you that those are what we're commonly referring to as the big 3. The state agencies have coalesced around these 3 as making a big difference. I think there's a pretty clear understanding that fixing the prototypical school model will take some time, but in the meantime, there are significant needs that can be addressed in this legislative session. So let's keep on scrolling, keep on scrolling. We're almost there, right there. The order, Director Block, I believe, suggested rearranging the order of the items. So we've done that. So enrollment's now number 7. Keep going, Jess. Number 8 is the specifically increasing the local enrichment levy limits and LEA funding. You may recall that initially this priority included regionalization, and you can see that we've scratched that language and focused the language on the local enrichment levy limits as well as LEA funding. The 2 paragraphs above the struck out section is kind of just language that's cleaned up and more clearly articulated. And if you could scroll down a little bit more, right here, that language there is new language. You've not seen that before. And since this is all on kind of the LEA portion and levy limits, Deputy Superintendent DeVita, did you want to add any color, any flavor to this?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The one focuses on LEA districts getting the same opportunity that we have in terms of local funding by equalizing what they can get from LEA to what we can collect locally. And the second is basically increasing what we can get from our local taxpayers to support our school district, and then allowing the LEA districts to get the same.
Thank you, Melissa. And then scroll down a bit more, Jess. This is number 9. This is an add. This was a suggestion by Director Aris that we include funding and request and support for early childhood education. This was one of our priorities, one of our policy priorities last year. The problem statement is so clear, enhanced access to publicly funded early childhood education makes a massive, massive difference in the lives of children. And we know that access to high quality childcare is pretty inequitable and hard to come by in this state. So the proposed solution is legislation that expands access and or provides funding for quality early learning programs. And also say this is one of those things we're talking about enrollment. If we're able to provide opportunities for our earliest learners and get them, when they're 3, 4, 5, the chances are that those become K through 12 students. So that's a little bit in the method of the madness above and beyond, it's good public policy. So I'll stop there and turn it over to Dr. Aramaki.
Just a couple of comments. So I do support adding the early childhood back. It's been on our platform before, so the board has approved it before. But I do think it's forward thinking because as school enrollment is declining, school buildings have more space. Preschool early learning is one of the most important kind of equity-driven things you can do to raise achievement of all students. And so I think it's smart of us to get ahead of that and to put it on our platform because I do see a future of more progressive funding and support for schools in the future, I hope. So I supported that. And then I think I like the ads around prototypical model because as I've mentioned before, a group of superintendents are getting together and a big push for over the next 5 years is to revamp the prototypical model because the prototypical model doesn't include anything around intervention, MTSS, mental health, and it also doesn't provide any weighted funding for students who have additional needs. And so it's pretty much a flat, inequitable funding model. And so we are going to push for kind of some statewide changes around that. And I think this language gives us kind of the ability to advocate for that as a school district. And then around the local enrichment levy and LEA, just in my conversations with superintendents across the state, there's a lot of widespread support for the two of them together. So not one separate from the other. And I think dropping regionalization is smart because a lot of districts would like to see the raising of the local enrichment levy. It would support way more districts than just regionalization alone. Some states do it where the state allows you to raise it as much as the state's willing to pay for LEA. And so I think there's some options to do that. And so that is also, I think, something that we can plan for over the next 5 years. But I like the changes to that as well.
Okay, so if we're ready for a little bit of discussion, going with my new reverse whatever order, that puts Director Aras first.
Well, I think you eloquently said what I was hoping to say, which is regarding the early childhood education. Thank you for adding that. I think it is important, and it will set us up if we could have something like that in our district as far as the slowing down the decrease of student numbers, as well as setting our students up better as far as closing the gap in achievement. And so I am super excited that we included that. Thank you.
Great, Director Webs.
Then I won't echo what you just said, but I agree as well. I think it's smart of us to include the early childhood education component here, and I'm glad that you brought it up. So yeah, I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Great appreciation on that. 100% for this. My one question is regarding communication. I think we had talked about, will there be some way to leverage our community and our public so that we can help kind of increase advocacy or organizers and community agencies in the district to kind of create that super collective impact that I think we need? I could tell you're going to answer that. Thanks, John.
And to that end, two groups that we've worked pretty closely with last year and will continue to work with this year is the PTSA Council and the Bellevue Educators Association. So shared this draft document with them. And Christy from PTSA Council got back to me and shared their legislative advocacy where there's alignment, and there is. So I think we can mutually support. I mean, everything here is going to be supportive of the system, and there is agreement there, and we'll continue to work with those parties to advocate. And the other one of the things that we do, one of the things I think it's great that we've, assuming you approve this tonight, and we get this, posted and advertised, the more that the community can become aware of what it is that's important to us and why, they can do their own, advocacy, as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. I think having really super clear talking points that are succinct and have clarity and can be translated into many, many languages would just be super helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, great work. And now I have a challenge for you. Let's get this on a business card. the size of a wallet card. I'm not kidding, because somebody gave me one once, probably from state PTA or something, because as we're wandering around town and we run into a legislator, as you do, we can refresh our memory quickly and then know what to ask for. So, so that'll be a challenge, but I think we can maybe do it. Okay, let me pass it on.
Yeah, I think this is a good list. It, much like our strategic plan, it's a little bit of a long list. So I echo what President Watson said, that I was always taught in school that boil everything down to threes, because everybody can remember three things. And once you go beyond that, it gets a little hard. You start to lose track. And so for that reason, I like that we do have clearly identified what our top three are, and everything else is kind of a second tier. We don't have here is what we will probably see that we might have to play defense on. One of those is regionalization. It's clear that a lot of the state schools, a large area of the state does not benefit from regionalization, and that is a thorn in the side of many rural and non-urban school districts. There's a lot of frustration around that they see that as inequitable. We see that as the modification we need so people can live and work in our community, that we live in a high cost area. And we think it's critical that we have those additional funds so that we can pay the staff and teachers and everybody enough so that they're not driving from 100 miles away. So that's one issue that I firmly anticipate we're going to continue to face questions and pushback and to play defense on. The other is that, as Director DeVita, our superintendent, Deputy Superintendent DeVita pointed out, we have a lot of schools that are in rather extreme conditions. And what I fear always when I see that is the one-off solutions. I question whether most of the school districts have the legislative weight to pull a one-off solution, but Seattle might. And I am scared of them trying to create a one-off solution that only works for them, that distorts things in weird ways. So that's always a challenge. We all prefer to see universal solutions, that we're all public school districts and all trying to serve the same types of communities. That's it for the state things. I do want to briefly touch on the fact that we live in a community where we're serving several different cities. Bellevue, Redmond, Medina, a tiny bit of Kirkland, Clyde Hill, the Points communities, Beaux-Arts. And we have opportunities to work with those city councils on things, and those interests are probably slightly different. I know that we're trying to get together a meeting with City of Bellevue, and that maybe City of Redmond also has an interest in a similar meeting. And those will probably focus more on transport, access to our schools, public safety, and community development. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it says here, approval of legislative priorities. So we need a motion and a second, and
I move that we approve the proposed legislative priorities.
Second.
okay. Any more discussion? Do we? Okay. All in favor? Let's say aye.
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 Right. I think that's everybody. So
Thank you, board.
yeah, good. So now what we've got left is director discussion, and my calculation is that Director Webster would go first.
Thank you, President Watson. So yeah, I met with Rainier Athletes yesterday for our first meeting in a while because of break. And we're in the process of developing or kind of revamping the vision and the mission statements as a group, and had some really great discussions around the importance of using inclusive language and how important wording is in being inclusive and intentional. And so those should be finalized soon. It was a great meeting. Good to see everybody back. Really enjoyed kind of the versatility of the breakout sessions at Leadership Institute. and the topics were very interesting to me. I found that I resonated with a lot of the subject matter that resulted from those sessions, and the presenters did a really great job. It felt really personalized, and I really appreciated that. The food was really good, and it was just great to hang out with everybody and get to know more about the University of Washington campus than I ever knew from the tour. So that was really fascinating and great. PTSA breakfast was really great to meet and connect with the new PTSA leaders in the buildings, and I'm just so grateful for all the support that they provide to our principals and our students in those spaces, and it's all volunteer work. So kudos to those individuals who step up and really support our building leaders, and really also wanted to call out Heather for making space for the affinity groups to meet during the lunch breakout time and as an option for people. It was really great to connect with people that look like me. It was great. So had some great conversations and discussions. Last thing I wanted to mention was that we do have families that are hearing about the work that's happening here in our district, and possibly wanting to pull their kids from private school and put them here in our school district. And I think that's super exciting. I really want to thank Janisha and Ricardo for their willingness to step up and have conversations with the family that I met with this week, just to provide some additional support, resources, conversation, so that they feel comfortable bringing their kids here to our district. And so I'm just really excited about the fact that people are talking about bringing their kids here. So I just wanted to mention to you all that did happen this week. That's good. Yeah.
Boy, that feels like the Welcome Center gets to get ready to buckle up. It's exciting, really exciting. I might be repeating and just adding on to what's already been mentioned, but kudos to that planning team for the Leadership Institute. I knew that took hours. You could just tell from start to finish. It was expansive, personalized, great feeling, centered around the strategic plan. The We Belong was right out there, right away, and deeply felt. So thank you for that. I also have to give just a shout out to our board. It was great just to hang with you guys and to learn together and to eat together and break bread. And we missed you, Phil. I'm glad you took a great vacation, though. That's so important. And I'm sorry I missed the PTA breakfast. It was a scheduling glitch, and I just feel sick about missing that. But overall, it was just exhilarating and so enhancing professionally and in terms of community coming together. It was great. Wanted to give one more shout out to Jubilee Reach. Day of service is coming up. It's a week from Saturday, 8 to noon at 19 of our 25 schools. You can go to jubileereach.org. You can register, or you can just show up at one of those 19 schools. I hope they don't mind me saying that. Come on. It's all about helping our kids and our schools get really, really ready for the first day of school. Lastly, I just want to give a huge compliment and appreciation to William Jackson. I was really moved by his introduction tonight. I don't know about everybody else, but it just, again, felt like it was exemplifying the value of We Belong. And for him to lead with that so beautifully was really reinforcing that we're on the right track. To have such a quality new administrator feel that right out of the gate is just impressive. So I got goosebumps again over that one. So just had to shout it out.
Okay, well, I could second all that about the bits of the Leadership Institute that I was able to go to and the PTSA breakfast, and I'm still working my way through chapter 9 of the book I was supposed to read. I got notes on half of it. And now I'm looking at something else, because I don't think I was ever been, maybe I was and I just didn't notice, invited to now the Teacher Institute, which is coming up. I know I've been to March Professional Development before, so I guess I was going to ask, is it okay? I'll stick at the back of the room and try not to be disruptive. And there are too many things. And So I'm looking at, how can I be in several places at once? And it looks like 2 different buildings. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great. Yeah, I echo, I'm sorry I missed the Leadership Institute. It looked like a great time. I was at a lake and playing with my kids. So that was also a great time. And it was also great to hear from Dr. Jackson. I like Dr. Aramaki's new hiring strategy of making sure that employees all have multiple kids who are going to enter the school district. That's a good stabilization strategy for enrollment. So on a couple of more serious notes. So Bellevue Schools Foundation, that's my liaisonship. They've got a new tagline. They are our communities investing in students is the new tagline. So that's going to be rolling out soon. They also have just put out their 23-24 impact report, which does a great job of summarizing how some of their targeted investments have benefited computer science and coding classes in the elementary and middle schools, teacher board certifications, enrichment and innovation grants, which benefit every school in the district has received one of those. Boom, breaking out the margins, which I look forward to learning more about, Shamari. Mental health investments, fentanyl and Narcan in our schools. So fentanyl education and Narcan presence in all of our schools to prevent overdoses. So those are all great things that they've been working towards and investing, and it's great to have our community citizens and companies supporting us through that tool. So that's really fantastic. Online, there's been quite a bit of chatter and in the news about cell phones. I would like to remind ourselves that the district has a policy 3245, which is about telecommunications devices. So it's not called a cell phone policy. It's got a funnier name than that. So some of the language is a little tortured and maybe not hip to the current lingo. But it does say telecommunications devices will be turned on and operated only before and after the regular school day and during the student's lunch break, unless an emergency situation exists that involves imminent physical danger or a school administrator authorizes the student to use the device. That's been in place since 2012. I think that there's been some drift in implementation between our different campuses. And while there's a lot of press going on about different districts adopting policies to get cell phones out of the classrooms, we've had that policy for a long time. The trick is always, how is that implemented so that we don't put excessive pressure on teachers or administrators to try to school all of that. And that's really on parents and families to help make sure that we're aware that that is the expectation. I want to also echo Dr. Aramaki's excitement about back to school. Got 2 kids who are excited about going back to school. It was great to see the picture of the custodians. One of my favorite memories from last year was going to an event at International School, the big community event, and the custodian was videotaping all of the interactions. He was loving seeing all the students and being a part of that community. So they're such a critical part of so many of our schools. Sometimes they work late hours and clean up after, but they love our students. They engage with our families, and they're a really critical part. So that's really great. I also want to note that there's a lot of, as the enrollment situation is stabilizing or changing, it seems like some schools or programs may be approaching or at capacity, and having some transparency about which ones are maybe reaching those points would be helpful. I have 2 more. So the next one is, as we've gone through a couple of these planning processes as one-offs for acquisitions of properties, potential sales of properties, demolition of unused buildings, it's helped me realize that we don't seem to have a clear master plan for either the relationship between all of our school buildings or how to manage these surplus and non-academic properties. And that may be a beneficial thing for the school board to engage in a discussion and engage our community in a discussion on in the future. So that's kind of a proposal I'll put out there if others want to help pick that up. It just strikes me that we're making one-off decisions and that there could be a grander scheme. I'm going to save the last one for another day. I'll stop there.
Okay, I guess.
We had a couple of minutes extra, but, sorry. All right.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am going to echo on the Leadership Institute. I thought it was amazing. It was kind of fun to be on UW campus and in the classroom. It's been many decades since I've been in there for grad school, so in the same buildings. It was kind of fun to see the little changes and the fact that it hasn't changed a whole lot at the same time. And oh my goodness, Owen's guide of around the campus and his storytelling was phenomenal. I so much appreciated hearing his rendition and of the stories behind all the different spaces. I appreciate how we had the panel from the different parts of our community and their insight and input into the questions and concerns, as well as the mental health. Ashok's, I have to say every session left a lot of food for thought and made me think. Yeah, my brain went on override. I appreciate I should say thank you. And I practiced my sign language. I did my alphabet. I worked on my, so thank you for encouraging that. And then, yeah, and also the listening leaders. I think it's kind of nice to rethink and kind of recenter the importance of our roles and listening and hearing our community. It's, as a parent, I was a parent of adults now, 3 adults. One of my proud moments is when I see my children are being good humans. And it was great to see William, sharing his story and the importance of being humans. And I think it's so important now, more so than ever, with technology evolving and with the AI. And honestly, my personal belief is, or thoughts at this point, is how that's going to be a very important skill that we teach our kids. So I appreciate us centering around that and making that an important thing in our community. I do have an ask. I know there's Boom and Teacher Institute. I saw I think an invitation for, I think it was breakfast or something for the teachers. I don't think we were invited for the whole, was that? I didn't see it. And I would love for the board to be invited for the Boom, because I want to support our students in that space if it's okay in the future. If it's not, that's fine too. And then, one update regarding the amendments regarding our discussion around the WASDA positions. We did submit one which is around the environment, and that after discussing with Lake Washington, because it was their position. But the other ones we held off because, especially around the equity and the diversity positions, when it was passed originally, it was rather complicated and very long discussion. And after talking to the WASA board members, or I think the suggestion is to hold line and make sure that we don't, in versus trying to change the language to improve it, because that would make it more complicated. Just because the amendment has to be done prior to, and it may get too sticky. So that was the encouragement. So I withheld from submitting amendments on those two positions and preparing to have more statements ready to have better discourse during that time at the General Assembly, as well as the encouragement is to have more conversation with our fellow board directors across the state on that. So just want to give you guys an update on that. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just give one quick clarification? We did submit the one on sustainable buildings in jointly with Lake Washington School District, who had initially proposed that one. So we jointly submitted that one together.
All right, any more discussion? Are we good? All right. And we are still a minute or two early. So I will say, we're not adjourned, right? We are adjourned?
We are.
All right. Oh, okay, we are adjourned. This meeting of the Bellevue School District Board of Directors is now adjourned.